Also in Europe, a new piece of legislation working its way through Poland's parliament, once again dealing with Poland's history during the Holocaust and World War II, has a big impact perhaps on relations with the world and the Jewish community. Owen Alterman, our senior international affairs correspondent, joins me now. Tell us about this bill, what it's about, and who it impacts.
Well, Jeff, it's about restitution for Holocaust-era property. Just to remind viewers, 3 million Jews in pre-war Poland, 90% killed in the Holocaust. After the war, the property was then taken by the communist government in Poland and nationalized. With the fall of communism, a lot of efforts to have that property given back to the heirs, or at least have the heirs compensated. What does this new law say? It says you can be compensated for the property, but only if you're a Polish citizen, and only if you're a first-line relative, if you're a spouse, a child, or a grandchild. Jeff, what's the problem? Most of these heirs are not Polish citizens. They live in the United States and Israel or other countries around the world, and many of them are not first-line relatives. After all, again, 90% of Polish Jewry were wiped out. So many of the heirs are cousins, are nieces, are nephews of the original owner, so this would really, really limit the restitution. 59 U.S. senators have now sent a law to the Polish prime minister. The list of names is amazing. It goes everything from Elizabeth Warren to the left, and then to Ted Cruz on the far right and everyone in between. So again, 59 U.S. senators coming together, sending a letter to the Polish prime minister to try to influence the passage of this law.
All right, staying with Poland, Owen, there is now, because of all of the new pieces of legislation, the new law dealing with Poland's history and the debate about the Holocaust, there's a new debate, a vigorous debate about these very popular Holocaust educational trips, really a rite of passage for Israeli teens, and the future of them.
That's right, Jeff. You know, I was in Poland at the beginning of February, and actually at the time when the president announced he was going to sign that other Holocaust law about Holocaust memory, outlawing the use of the word Polish death camps, and finding people criminally liable potentially for saying Poles were partially responsible for the crimes of the Holocaust. But I was asking people about these Holocaust trips. You know, 40,000 Israelis and diaspora Jews go on these trips every year. We'll see it in a moment. But again, these trips are actually raising a lot of concerns, both in terms of how Poles look at them and the message that Poles feel is being sent towards them, and also about the trips themselves and their educational value. I asked some people about these trips, both in Poland and here in Israel. Here's the report. For young Israelis and young Jews around the world, it's become a rite of passage. The trip to Poland to visit the death camps located there. An estimated 40,000 go every year. There's a well-trodden path. Visits to Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Majdanek. Saying prayers or lighting candles in memory of those who were murdered. Draping an Israeli flag. Now, the trips have become part of the debate over Poland's recent law on Holocaust history. The trips, long seen by some in Poland, is accusing the country unfairly of responsibility for the Holocaust. As Poland's then president told an Israeli minister a decade ago, "You send your high school students to Poland. They march in our streets, waving Israeli flags, exuding hatred and fear. They look at us as though they're seeing Satan." It's not only Polish politicians. Some Jews, too, criticize the practice.
Israelis should be marching through Berlin, not through Warsaw or Ukraine, right? This is where the victory parade should take place, if we need victory parades at all. Frankly, I don't. They tried to kill us, they're dead, we live. As far as I'm concerned, I'm much more interested in our future than in reminding everybody that we're not dead yet.
But many, many Jews support the visits. Holocaust scholar Gidon Greif disagrees with Polish objections, noting, for example, the Polish record after the Holocaust.
Do you know that from 1945 to 1951, more than 2,000, some say even 3,000 Jews, survivors of Auschwitz, Treblinka, Majdanek, Sobibor, Belzec, ghettos, were murdered in Poland as if the Poles never heard that the war came to an end.
Instead, Professor Greif raises another concern, whether guides are professional enough, whether education surrounding the trips is done well enough.
You have to be super professional, knowledgeable, and to say the right words in the right places. Most guides are good or excellent, not all of them.
On his own, in his Warsaw synagogue, Poland's chief rabbi also notes how much depends on the guides, or madrichim.
I think they have a potential for an important educational experience. Too often, they fail to meet their goals. Too often, it really is up to the madrichim to do a very good job, and it's a very hard subject.
At the outset of the crisis over Poland's law, some in Israel and abroad argued that the trips should be canceled, that the trips were helping Poland's economy, so should be stopped. Israeli Education Minister Naftali Bennett decided to continue the trips, with the questions of how to guide and how to prepare for the trips staying on the agenda. And the big question of the message of the trips, especially about the Polish role in the Holocaust, still to be worked out. Owen Alterman, I-24 News, Warsaw and Tel Aviv.